Broadcasting from the Blanchistan Centre. This is Phoenix FM.
The internet is a communications tool used the world over where people can come together to bitch about movies and shit.
According to the Nerd Index, you should be upside down in a junior high toilet around the clock.
This is We'll do it live! Time goes in, time goes out. Never miscommunication.
It's over 9,000! My name is Foxy.
The balls are in there.
Don't face me, bro! It's a trap! I'm a firing believer! Time to Hey, Cherry, wake up! Oh, God, oh, man!
Hello, and welcome to this week's edition of the Nerd to Know Basis Show, airing on Phoenix 92.5 FM and all those other wonderful places on the internet, such as Spotify, our YouTube Shorts, which have been doing very good numbers recently, SoundCloud, and of course our own website. I'm Cian, and we have a full panel this week with Darragh and Kev. Darragh, first of all, how are you doing?
Ahoy, how are you?
I'm good. I have been enjoying a new show that a lot of people seem to dislike. So, which is always a wonderfully confusing, emotional time. How about you, Kev?
Oh, we're just getting into it, is it?
Oh, look, let's not beat around the bush. Like, there's no, like, the weather's miserable. Let's just get into it.
Yeah, look, and just to be very clear, I'm like Kev in this, where Kev doesn't have any attachment to Star Wars. I have no attachment to Star Trek. I just never really got it. So I'm just interested. I'm just like, let them fight when stuff like this happens. But the narrative seems to be that this show is real bad. So that's just what I've seen online. But I'm interested to see why it's
not bad. IMDb. It's currently sitting on a 4.4 out of 10. I find that highly unreasonable.
That's rough. That's rough.
I think it's polarizing. I think its marketing was garbage. But I personally like the show quite a lot. I can understand this is Starfleet Academy now, just to make it abundantly clear. I can understand why people don't take to it, but I think it's kind of from the get-go, it sets out what it is and what it's trying to be. And like, I think me and Kev were talking a bit off the air about this, and it's kind of like, well, you know, it's a Star Trek kind of like coming of age, like comedy thing. Like, it is what it is. It's not trying to be next generation and failing. So I like it on its terms. What do you think, Kev?
You know, I was very diplomatic when we were texting about this, but then I've been sitting with it. And I really don't like this show.
Oh, really? Okay.
I really don't. Like, okay, where I started when I started, because I had known kind of it was going to be kind of a teen school drama. And I kind of knew that in the jump. And when I started watching it, it became very apparent to me that this show is just not for me. That was my first impression.
What was the point where it lost you?
I mean, it really started to lose me pretty much right after the flash forward to of Caleb. Actually, do you know what? The first things first. Let me kind of break down what the show actually is. So it is It takes place after the events of Discovery at like in the 34th century, thereabouts, about 1,000 years after like Prime Trek. And it's about basically the rebuilding of the Federation after the burn, which was where all the dilithium cores exploded and space travel became very limited. And now it's about the Federation kind of rebuilding themselves and coming back together and trying to build a whole bunch of new allies. And in that is focused on the story of one Caleb Meir, who was separated from his mother at a young age for during a court proceeding where she was tacitly involved, only for him to live a kind of a life of roguery and crime up until he gets picked up by a Starfleet admiral played by Holly Hunter, Commander Ake, who was the one who separated him from his mother, and she takes him under his wing at the newly founded Starfleet Academy with the promise of finding their mother who is lost in space.
Right.
And
very succinct, yeah.
And there's just kind of tonal issues I'm finding with it. Like, first off the bat, I cannot. I'm just not a fan of Caleb as a whole of a character. I just think he's too prickly and too aggressive for how much leeway he's getting in this show.
Okay, all right. I mean, like, I get where you're coming from, but like, I personally just like the dynamic between Caleb and I'm gonna bring up the name now, and Holly Hunter's character. I'm not sure if he's referred to as Nala or Ak, but either way, the half Lathanite captain.
Hmm.
I kind of like that it's sort of a mother-son dynamic. You don't get a huge amount of those, like, in action sci-fi TV, so I find that a bit refreshing. I like how
Mhm.
it's like an ensemble thing, but like he's just sort of the focus of it to an extent. Like he wasn't hugely involved with episode 3 that came out yesterday.
Hmm.
And like I don't know. I mean, I want to hear more about what's not working for you. But personally, it might just be the Doctor Who fan in me, where it's just like, okay, every showrunner's going to turn up, they're going to do their thing, and it's going to be in a bubble. If you come to this looking for like next gen type Star Trek, this ain't that. But you know what?
Totally.
In this day and age, I'd much rather like Star Trek took a big swing on a weird Brooklyn Nine-Nine meets Fire Emblem Three Houses concept, and like commit to it and do it well, rather than like half committing to something that's vaguely like TOS or Voyager or something like that.
Completely. I don't disagree with the show kind of fundamentally. I've actually something I've said kind of on air is that I do like that there seems to kind of an ethos of the Kurtzman era of Star Trek that is trying to make Star Trek for different people, for a lot of kind of different avenues. Like, Discovery was obviously kind of pandering to a lot of kind of like the golden age of television, Breaking Bad, sort of like prestige TV. Lower Decks was obviously going for kind of an adult comedy end. Prodigy was trying for kind of a younger elementary school kind of end. And, Section 31 was for people with failed lobotomies. Star Trek for all.
Okay, who set the timer for when Section 31 was coming up?
It was inevitable. It's so clearly the bar for just bad Star Trek.
In fairness, it was never going to win over an Irish crowd very easily, was it?
It was going to do it over any crowd. It's awful.
I mean, the bar for bad Star Trek is Star Trek.
Oh, Darragh, you've no idea.
Darragh, you're a Star Wars fan. You can sit
Exactly.
there.
Exactly. That's why I'm just letting this go because I have no dog in the fight at all.
Look, the other Star Trek stuff is like, Mandalorian to Rebels quality. Like Section 31 is like the holiday special. It's completely different league.
Oh, okay.
Like, no. Again, we're not gonna relitigate this, but like, most of the thing I could say about the Rise of Skywalker is that it is at least competently shot. Anyway, yeah, no, like and Caleb being like, again, as I said, Caleb is the focus of the show, and like I kind of just I don't find him an engaging character. I haven't found like a lot of heart for him to kind of break into. Like I think like the kind of the main like kind of emotional crux of it is him wanting to find his mother, and there hasn't been enough there for me to kind of gel to him, and otherwise he's just been kind of prickly and aggressive for most of the other time. But not helping by that, I kind of have a similar feeling towards most of the rest of the cast. Like you mentioned, the kind of the other kind of core character is Captain Nala Ake, and they've really made this concerted effort because, like, obviously, I think with particularly she'd be like the captain of this show essentially.
Yeah,
and there's always this kind of like a lot of Star Trek is defined by its captain. And there's always kind of a push to try and like make that captain stand out in comparison to their peers. And there's been this, there's a really conceited effort to make Ake kind of quirky and holistic.
Oh yeah, the way she sits in a chair is like
The way she sits in a chair, showing up to a meeting barefoot. I only watched half of the new episode. I watched it during my lunch break. I just couldn't bring myself to come back to it.
Isn't this supposed to be Starfleet where they have like rules and uniforms and stuff like that?
Well, it's like Starfleet University. Like they're not like on a ship.
Yeah, but they're still it's supposed to like military school, right? So
it's funny you bring that up because they're next door to the military school. This is like the sort of like explorers school.
Right, then how is she not kicked out for not following the rules?
He's the
Just-
captain.
A very
She's in
good
charge.
question.
Oh, okay, I can see the problem.
But
Well, now
like,
to be fair, she is balanced out by. I'm just going to bring up the name here.
I will say,
by-
Laura Thok actually is one of the few
Yeah.
characters. I think, okay, I'm kind of mixed on her. She is definitely one of the most enjoyable characters on it. She's the first in command. She's a half Jem'Hadar, half Klingon, who kind of acts as this, like, she's very much the grim drill sergeant to her hippie. And there is a fun dynamic there. And again, as a performance, she is really hamming it up to a quite enjoyable degree. But that's another thing, is there's a real push to, like, there is a kind of a focus on almost kind of militarization that just doesn't sit comfortable with me. And
Really? The last episode was about a giant prank war.
Yeah, with a military college.
Yeah, but they're next door.
That's and like, God, yeah, that's like, it's just another thing. Like, this is probably me just projecting on just that it's not on that it's not my thing. But also, like, are we really just doing the rival school across the lake thing? Like,
yeah,
I'm separating my feelings of, I think this is bad and this is just not for me. But I'm really, they had chances to kind of do things that are fun and creative, and they're falling back on what I would consider very tired and rote hallmarks.
Yeah, well, my wife enjoyed it, but she said a similar thing. Yeah, she didn't get the sort of, like, competitive jock mentality.
Yeah.
She found it to be very American, like, you know.
That's it. Like, this, yeah, and like, the show has, like, its dialogue uses a lot of kind of contemporary phrasings that just kind of feel tonally out of sync. Even like with Discovery, say, which kind of would be its closest parallel. Because I'm like, okay, I'm going to give the show a lot of slack because we are in a section of, like, the Star Trek universe and Star Trek timeline that is mostly unexplored. This isn't Roddenberry's Utopia. This is a
bit of a blank
post-Utopia.
canvas, yeah.
Yeah. So, like, there is elements that I kind of would give it slack, but I think it's not doing anything I would consider fun and creative with that, and it's just kind of plugging used tropes into a Star Trek setting.
Okay. All right, that's fair. I mean, you are right. It is very much like kind of playing to the, like, Animal House type mentality of sort of students messing around. We're kind of judging it based on the first 3 episodes, obviously. So the first one was this sort of typical Star Trek episode. The second one was what I would consider the Star Trek stock romance bottle episode, and then we've got the sort of the prank war thing. I'm not gonna, like, cast too many judgments, because what's it called? Strange New Worlds does this thing where it'll do a very goofy episode, and then it will do a very dramatic episode. So for all we know, that's next week's one. But I don't know. It's I get where you're coming from. I get why people are upset with it. But I'll be honest, it's, like, really nice and cinematic. And apart from, like, the kind of jerk guy who insists on being the best at everything, who we're supposed to hate, you know, like, I find the characters kind of warm and endearing. I like having, like, the Doctor from Voyager just sort of floating around. To be honest, it's all the teachers who are winning it over for me. All them, and having taken Taro back and everything, like, you
Actually,
know.
on that, I don't know if I ever talked about this because I can't remember how often we did talk about Discovery. Ignataro is such a, like, odd kind of personality in all this. I always found she was so tonally dissonant to everything Discovery was doing, but was kind of like a small enough part that it never really came out much. And every time she kind of showed up, I'm like, oh, this feels like a different show you're in. Now she's syncing up with the tone. I just don't like the tone she's syncing up with.
I see. So she's at home in this show, but you don't like the show.
Yeah,
she's
that's
at home
it. Exactly. It's
okay.
Again, it's an odd scenario.
See,
And actually, I don't know, now that I'm thinking about it, and it might come up as the season goes on. Didn't they, like, spend the whole last season of Discovery seeding that Tilly was supposed to be a lecturer here?
yeah, I don't know why she hasn't turned up yet. I've seen.
Yeah, no,
I've
that
seen
that just
photos.
dawned on me.
I've seen photos released early of like Burnham being in an episode. Like, so I'm sure it's around the corner. But I mean, it's a tough one because like I get where you're coming from in like the sort of the broad sort of Star Trek thing. Like, it's an odd fit, even accounting for the burn kind of timeline. At the same time, so much of like New Trek is like, even with Strange New Worlds factored in, on the dark and brooding sort of like trying to be Star Wars thing. And here's this show that is not only goofy, it's very proudly goofy with all of these like vibrant characters who are bouncing off each other and like these sort of like tutting teachers who don't really care. Maybe it's just the kind of sentimentalist in me. But I kind of like just looking forward to it and having it be like fun on purpose. Like in the last episode, he was running around in a Mugatu costume to infiltrate the other campus. Like I can see why it would bother people, but like you can't say it isn't succeeding at what it's trying to do, you know?
That's fair. I'm not saying that this is like the end of the world. I have the better part of 60 years of Star Trek I like already in the can.
Well, this was going to be my argument, which was, like, I get that, and I think this is actually something to say about New Trek in general, which is, like, because I was watching the Red Letter Media ones, who are famously down on everything post-Enterprise, or possibly including Enterprise, and it's like, well, from Next Gen through Deep Space Nine to Voyager, there's about 800 odd episodes that are of a similar tone. I don't begrudge it trying some kind of wild swing. And if it's not to your taste, God knows there'll be another Star Trek show that's completely different along in 6 months' time,
Yeah, like that's said, it's on the metric rubric I've been kind of ranking Star Trek on. It's not the worst. It is competently made. I'd say its writing could probably do with a bit of a touch up and a bit of creativity, but like it's far from the bottom of the list.
Yeah.
Like we've already invoked the bottom of the barrel, but like I'm taking this as like a step up from Picard. It's a step up from Into Darkness. Like it is a better thing. Actually, to a certain degree, it was reminding me that when I rewatched the Abrams Star Treks. But I really do still like that first one. It was a movie of two halves where I loved the whole Romulan, Nero time travel escapade. But then, like this, where it kind of became a teen, like a teen high school drama.
Yeah.
Like that was kind of where I was rolling my eyes and sighing. Now, obviously, that was trying to implement, sketch that onto the original series cast, which was just not going to gel. So, like, they're not templating. Like, this isn't a next gen high situation. And like at least they're kind of going for something individual, but yeah, it's just not hitting for me, and that's okay.
Okay. I will say one thing I'm slightly disappointed in, and it's a problem I have with like New Trek in general, which is there aren't enough outwardly alien aliens. Like, if you get what I mean. Like, obviously, you have like Laura Thok. I didn't realize it was her by Jeannie Ashere, who's like this amazing comedian. But of course, because of makeup. But like, and I put this on Discovery and like not Discovery, but Strange New Worlds and a couple of the other shows as well. Like, obviously, it's kind of Star Trek tropes that like most of them are human, and then you have a Klingon, and then you have like an android or like something like that, or a Vulcan. But like, kind of apart from Spock, not a huge amount of like alien variety except in crowd scenes. Like it makes me happy
No, that's
when,
the,
like,
the most alien.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, the most alien character is your one Genesis, who kind of just has a little bit of stuff on her face.
Yeah. I mean, like, there's kind of I'm not gonna say his name, but like Jerky Guy. But even he is only a special effect alien sometimes, once so far. And like, no, excellent implementation of a Betazoid for once. It only took about 40 years to get that right. But yeah, it's kind of like, 'cause it makes me happy when you see, like, I don't know the name of them, but like a peanut hamper or like the rock one from Prodigy, and you kind of see them floating around the place, and you're like, oh yeah, that's cool. But then you're like, I get that it's like a high school thing, and you don't want them to be encumbered by a huge amount of makeup. But among the teenagers, there's just the Klingon guy, and nowadays the Klingon makeup isn't all that obtrusive, and even then, he's not like the one that's like, at least so far, gotten a spotlight yet.
Yeah, which I will say, like, I think I'm finding like I'm really I'm finding a lot of friction with cracking onto like a lot of the characters. He is probably the most likable I've found, just because I do like I do have a soft spot for the Klingon who chooses ecology. That's a great premise. I happily take soft Klingon any day of the week, but I yeah, like it is like not every show can have Doug Jones be willing to sit in a chair for
Yeah,
4 hours.
Doug. That's why I discounted Discovery. Like Doug Jones carried the alien element of that. Like,
Yeah, no, again, it's a shame of it's a shame that has plagued Star Trek for literally 60 years.
well, I mean, like, I know that like prosthetics are annoying, and if it's like a superficially like a teen drama, you want your like actors looking kind of like outwardly pretty and sort of like not being encumbered by giant eyebrows and all that jazz. But like, it's still Star Trek.
I'd
It
be
is what
more
it is.
forgiving. You know what? I'd be more forgiving if we were still in the like 26 episode yearly serialization model instead of the like every 2 years cinematic 10 episodes. You have the time to like shoot to like a film style model. You can work with some CG if you really need to.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I would
exactly.
encourage them to get creative.
Although I'll always take the prosthetic makeup over CG every day of the week.
Oh, certainly, but I'll also expect like it's a TV show. There's cost measures.
Yeah. And you know what? Let's not like kind of undervalue the first episode. Like, it's cool having Paul Giamatti in an episode of Star Trek, even if he's like cartooning it up, like.
He was eating every piece of scenery, and actually, I do like him. Like Paul Giamatti as a space pirate is kind of a blast. One thing I was actually surprised about is that like he's only in that first episode. He's obviously bound to come back.
Yeah.
But at least in like the promo stuff I saw, it felt like he was a core cast member.
Oh, well, that was deliberate. I honestly thought that Holly Hunter's character was going to die by the end of the first episode. It was that kind of like Giorgio and the start of Discovery type situation, where you can afford her for one episode and then you're off to the races with these new weirdos you don't know.
There, yeah, no, yeah, and again, just it's odd that Tilly hasn't shown up yet. That's it. I'm really kind of ruminating on that.
She will.
She
She
spent
will.
so long setting that up that it's odd that it hasn't happened.
She absolutely will. I mean, they've already. You probably quit the episode halfway through. They've already paired off a Reno with Thok as a couple. Like, they're starting to kind of integrate their casts and all that.
That's fair. I did, but yeah, no, I don't. I just don't have the pull to come back to it, and as a matter of fact, I double checked my Paramount subscription lapses in like a week, and I think I'm just gonna let it. I'll probably watch it like when it's all out in an afternoon, but I'm not. Yeah, no, I'm happy you like it. I'm probably just gonna leave this one live for a while.
Well, you know what? You're doing the sensible thing, because I don't like to go into sort of the echo chamber type thing. But I've seen people like kind of shouting it down before it even came out and criticizing it. And it's like, oh, well, how can a Klingon look like this? How can there be a Jem'Hadar? How can this? And it's like, we said a thing before we started recording, and it's just, we need more whimsy. Like with you, if it's not your thing, just stop watching it. But like,
and you know what?
step away if it's not your thing, and if it
You know
is
what they
your
should
thing,
do?
enjoy it.
You know what they should do?
What?
Stop making Star Trek.
I like how you said that like you were agreeing with my points in that tone of voice.
I am.
That is
Simple.
not what I said.
And you know what? Whimsy is just that, because the next show I want to talk about does inject whimsy into a world that is critically lacking in it.
Oh, that was a segue if ever I heard one.
Have either of you watched the or heard about the Night of the Seven Kingdoms?
I thought it was
Is this-
cancelled.
Is this the Game of Thrones spin-off?
Yes.
I've heard of it.
I know
That's
there was
about
a book of it, and then they were going to do 2 Game of Thrones shows, and then they cancelled one and made the House of the Dragon instead. Is this?
This
What
is
is
the
it?
second one. I think it got held up probably with production scheduling for House of the Dragon.
Okay.
But yeah, no, it's finally out. Okay. The long and short of this one is these are based off of a set of short stories that George wrote across the years about a hedge knight, roughly 100 years preceding the events of Game of Thrones. So so Westeros and the lands are in a relative era of peace. Relative.
I've never so many air asterisks in my life.
But it follows this hedge knight just kind of pottering along little individual adventures with his young boy squire who, spoilers if you literally haven't watched Game of Thrones because it's revealed in that show, turns out to be Aegon Targaryen, who's the old maester up on the wall in the main show.
Okay.
In this show,
The one played by Julian Glover, yeah.
yeah, and in Night of the Seven Kingdoms is endearingly called Egg. Which is funny because the little bald kid, yeah. But yeah, you know what? Only the first episode is out as of recording, but I kind of didn't have a lot of expectation going into this. But it's just kind of, as far as Game of Thrones' tone goes, kind of a delight.
Okay.
It's just because it starts off with Sir Dunk, or as he likes to call himself, Sir Duncan the Tall, who was previously the squire of an old hedge knight himself. His knight master dying, and Dunk just kind of trying to find his way in the world and deciding to enlist an attorney to basically get his renown as a knight, as a newly knighted knight, started. And it's just kind of, the world is trying to beat him down. He's this big, tall, hopeful, stupid lunk of a man, just kind of trying to get by. And I don't know if either of you have maybe even seen this online. There is this great, the tone is set pretty immediately at the start of the show. After he's buried his master, he takes up his master's sword and he's talking about how he could be a great knight one day. And the swell of the Game of Thrones, the strings start, the ba dun, 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 and it's kind of swelling to this big moment, and it immediately cuts, and it cuts to him taking a dump.
No.
And I was like, I cackled. I was like, okay, no, that's the tone. And the theme for the show is this very light string piece. It's very, very calm, very melancholic. It is a much lighter tone of a show. It's just kind of a bit of a romping fantasy adventure. And the first episode is just kind of him going around the stands of the tourney, basically trying to get into it and just kind of fumbling into a handful of crater houses, and ends up just getting buckled with Lionel Baratheon, who's this eccentric weirdo.
Like a bit Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, like the epic story being told from some idiot's point of view,
a little bit, yeah. No, that's it. It is a much smaller scope, a much simpler tone. There's only one episode, and I'd imagine, because I think there's only 6 episodes, and I'd say they'll get through 1 or 2 of the short stories across that. So, yeah, just. I think this is one I'm just going to like with you're saying about Starfleet Academy. Not everything has to be the biggest thing in the world with the most stakes. And just watching this big dumb tall knight try to make his way in the world that's kind of what I'm looking forward to.
Okay, well then let me ask you this: why is it you like this sort of change of tone in this show, but not in the Star Trek show?
I think there's a matter of tone that I really came up against with Starfleet Academy. Where Night of the Seven Kingdoms, it is it is smaller scale and it is much lighter. It still very much feels like, everybody is still talking as if it is Westeros, and there is still a lot of grandstanding, there is still a lot of Machiavellian power struggles, but the entire scope of it is just much smaller. There was a sense I got in Starfleet Academy that a lot of the dialogue felt out of sync with the world it was in. And like there was even tonal dissonance between characters in the same scene. Like of the three I watched, like the best definitely was episode 2 with the Beta Z conference.
Hold on, I can feel this one. Keen. It's like when you were watching The Mandalorian and Lizzo showed up with Jack Black.
Okay, so it doesn't feel like cohesive to the world, like.
Yeah, like that's what I was saying was they like the the conversations that the Beta Z leader was having with the Admiral, whatever his name was, the guy from Discovery, like that felt tonally in keeping with how I would have expected people to talk in this universe in Starfleet, and then it kind of cuts to like Caleb and Genesis talking, and it doesn't feel like they're in the same world.
Right. Okay. Gotcha. Okay. Well, then here's my question, because I haven't seen House of the Dragon. Like, who do you think would enjoy the Night of the Seven Kingdoms? Like, who's its audience?
Oh, anyone that likes Game of Thrones, easily. Okay. Like it is more of that world and more of like that tone, and anybody that likes medieval fiction and fantasy, like.
Yeah, and to be clear, Game of Thrones wasn't entirely joyless by any means.
No. But like it is remembered as being joyless.
Well, that's just because of the epic last few seasons. But like, like Peter Dinklage's character was one of the most popular for a reason, and that's because he brought a sardonic wit to it. Like,
Yeah, no, I think there's where where Tyrion had like kind of a sarcasm and a dry wit and like a charm, or like an overcalculation of it. There is a simple optimism to Dunk's character that is just endearing. Like
okay, all right.
He doesn't have like the kind of the grandstanding speeches about him, but he believes in what he believes in, and he believes that he can make the world better.
All right. Well, if I ever have enough money to get the HBO Max, I will definitely check it out because it sounds amazing.
Okay, but while there's a break, let me just talk about Jujutsu Kaisen recently, because I think I've watched the greatest episode of anime. No, seriously, guys, it is the best episode of anime I think I've watched ever in my goddamn life.
It's like that escaped you. You didn't even do a transition.
There was a break, and I needed to talk about this because this absolutely rocks. Okay, have I told you about Jujutsu Kaisen?
Are they gone? Can I talk about my anime?
Can I talk about anime? I think I've mentioned Jujutsu Kaisen in the past year. Right? They're like, it is far and away my favorite like of the modern shonen anime kind of coming out. And it plays on like a lot of the kind of the general tropes of the likes of your Naruto, your One Piece, your Bleach, but adding the kind of the darker kind of the darker, more kind of horror edges that a lot of modern stuff is doing, with just absolutely stellar writing, matched with an exceptionally well animated production by Mappa. But all of this comes down. There is an episode. Okay, so we're in the 3rd season. It's been releasing kind of week to week now. We're on about episode 4. There is an episode that came out recently that is basically its own self-contained arc about one of the secondary characters called Maki Zenin. They're setting up for a big tournament arc death game, and she basically has to go back to the family that disowned her for patriarchal reasons, to get a bunch of cursed weapons to go take on the big bad. And I won't spoil kind of like how it comes about, but what it turns into is 20 minutes of one woman completely just surgically disassembling and slaughtering an entire clan of people. In the most this was incredible reading it in the manga, because there was so rough shot, and it was bloody and gory, and the pages themselves felt visceral to read. the anime has taken a kind of a different stroke where everything is super clean, super like smooth and well animated, huge sweeping camera shots. One sequence is a whole like Kill Bill homage to the crazy 88. And all the while there is this like really upbeat and joyous like drum solo kicking in the background. There is no sense of like melancholy or the evil she has become. The show is delighting in the slaughter of this patriarchal system, and it is delightful to watch.
Okay, well that kind of leads me to my question. What is the tone of this?
Normally the tone of Jujutsu Kaisen is tension, fear, and action. This is glee. This episode in itself is absolute delight. Like, this woman absolutely mercilessly slaughters her dad, her uncles, her cousins, all of the house servants, and then her mom. And there is not a whit of like compassion about the fact. And the show is trying to is using that to convey to you that there is no empathy here. These were bad people. These were bad people entrenched in a traditional system that was only putting people down.
Okay, all right. Well, like, let's say you're a bit of an anime normie like me. First of all, I'm assuming it's on Crunchyroll, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so is it too late to kind of hop on this bus? Has it run too far ahead? Like,
No, God, no. I would still say genuinely start from the start of the season. Even though the episode itself is self-contained, there is a lot of context that makes it really hit.
right?
But the show itself is actually genuinely one of the best shonen fare going. I know you're a fan of the likes of Demon Slayer and that right now. This is what I would consider the pinnacle of that genre.
Okay, I mean, you had me at Kill Bill, but yeah, this sounds absolutely amazing. Would you think it's like, is it going to be like the next like Demon Slayer type thing, or do you think it's?
Oh, it
totally
is.
new?
It already is.
It already
There's
is.
no.
Okay.
It already is.
Okay,
There
so I
is,
haven't
yeah.
heard of this one in the wild yet.
I suspect once you start watching it, you'll realize that you've grokked a lot of cosplays.
Okay, it's usually the way.
Actually, Darragh, has because I know you've been wandering aimlessly into cinemas with anime as of late.
Yes.
Has any of the Jujutsu Kaisens crossed your field of vision?
Oh yeah, it did. So I went to go see one after a hockey game, and I had no idea what was going on.
Was this
But-
recently?
Oh, this was recently. This was like
Then this is the first like 2 episodes of this season, the Culling game.
so. Yeah. So is this the one that's just constant violence and like
Yeah.
big? Yeah. I've seen it. It's the wildest thing I have ever seen. And look, I walked out of it right after. I didn't walk out of it. I left the theater after it was over, and I had no idea what I watched. But I had a great time.
Such a blast. And like I can imagine that first.
I couldn't tell you what happened. I couldn't tell you what it was about.
That first episode is very like vibes heavy. It's action packed, but like there's
is.
very little dialogue, and it's just kind of dropping you in the middle of like post season 2 where things are kind of bad, to put it simply. And it just kind of drops you in this scenario where there was all of a sudden this huge high flying set piece, and that's most of the episode.
Yeah, no, and honestly, like it's just I didn't even know that these were the same thing when you mentioned this, and then you bring it up. I was like, oh yeah, I saw that, and I still don't know what it was about. Yeah, he's not lying.
Darragh,
No,
you need to publish a book of like all your kind of venture into these animes and just like recall what you saw as if it's like a dream you've nearly forgotten about
Oh,
without investigating any further context.
No, honestly, right? Because there's a cinema like literally right beside the SSE. Like it's in the complex. So if the game doesn't go to overtime, you can usually just see the last movie that's there. So I actually saw 2 that week. Seekers, I walked out of legitimately because that was a boring movie, and I said, okay, what else is on? And then I saw that it was that Jujutsu thing. I'm like, oh, this will be fun, and I just went in, and yeah, it was great. But I I genuinely didn't even know that I'd already seen it until Kev started describing it to me.
It's such an again like this is kind of the de facto way of that they've been releasing things, particularly like big headline anime these days, has been that they'll preview the first like episode or two in cinemas ahead of its like seasonal TV launch. So obviously that is that doesn't help you with any context most of the time.
Listen, I don't even think context could help this one, right? It
But
was
also
just,
like I had like considering I obviously watched the previous season twice, have read the entire manga. It took me a good 20 minutes to grok what was happening. Because it just like the start of this third season just kind of curveballs you right into media res. Like,
Isn't it so mad that like all the like Marvel and Star Wars are making all these hundreds of TV shows to like get you to go see a movie in the cinema, and then in Japan it's the inverse. They plonk stuff in cinema so you can go watch the anime on TV.
if you know what, if Doomsday looked as absolutely sick as Jujutsu Kaisen, they could get away with that.
the thing about it is, it's like when I was watching the anime, like again, it was just constant non-stop action. Yeah, it was just crazy, but I wasn't bored. You know, I'd gone from watching a movie that was just really, really slow to this feast for the eyes. So absolutely.
Yeah, no, there is a frenetic energy that is captivating. And you gotta watch this show, man.
I want to. It sounds really, really good. I just need to get the Crunchyroll password back off you.
Just text me. I'm
And
gonna text you right
time.
this minute.
Please do. I need to get caught up on that and Chainsaw Man and a whole bunch of other things. I tried watching that. There was like a Netflix one about alchemy, which I enjoyed, but I found to be very strange. Not Full Metal Alchemist.
I don't think I know it. I have really fallen off. I have not watched a lot of anime of late. I still haven't watched that second season of Dan to Dan. It just hasn't crossed me.
Oh, I've watched it twice. What are you doing?
Not because I don't want to.
How are we doing? How are we doing for time?
Like 10 minutes.
About 15 minutes.
We have 15 minutes?
Yeah.
Oh wow, okay, we're doing well. We're doing well. I was like
We've actually got a few topics.
But speaking of which, right? So I got some like random news that that is pretty interesting. So we mentioned Doomsday, right? And
Sorry, Apothecary Diaries was the one I was trying to think of.
Oh, actually, no, I do know that one. It's a blaster.
It is, yes. Sorry, go on, Darragh.
no, I need to watch more anime. I really do. Like not random. I'm still waiting for it to finish Blue Lock, but anyway. So look, we mentioned Doomsday, but I wanted to mention this while we had some time. So it looks like Mark Ruffalo has got the sack, so he's not going to be the Hulk anymore.
Why?
Yeah, well, a couple of reasons, but there's this. It's like confirmed, not confirmed, but there is this belief that they're trying to get Edward Norton back. So that's a rumor, not a fact, but I would love that personally.
Oh no, the Hulk is replaced. Who could have seen this coming?
Everything I know
How
about
could we ever
Edward
deal with
Norton.
this again?
Yeah. However, there is one that was confirmed. So your one who played She-Hulk is gone, and she's not. She's completely gone. But they've now brought in Mariana Winston. Is that the girl who played Ramona Flowers and is now playing Hera? She's your new She-Hulk, which I think is a great casting, to be fair. I'd much rather prefer her. But I know you guys were fans of the She-Hulk show, so
Mary Elizabeth Winstead.
that's it.
But see, I find that hard to believe because she's like she's playing a green character in Star Wars already. What's the source on this?
The Screen Rant.
Ah, no, Darragh.
Look, it's there. It's there. You can Google it yourself and you can see.
I
But
know you can Google it, but like, sure, like, that's like, sorry if they're listening, like, clickbait in its purest form.
I don't know.
I'm not sorry if they're listening. That is absolute content farming.
Fair enough, but here's the thing: like last week, it was confirmed that she's not coming back for She-Hulk, so she's gone either way.
Well, if that's the case, then I'm very disappointed because, like, me and Kev have been like very unapologetic in how much we enjoyed that show.
Yeah, but like I don't know. I think with the MCU, they're kind of doing like a reset kind of thing and a Hail Mary, and not to be confused with the movie that's also called Hail Mary that looks pretty good. It just seems that like they're desperately trying to change course, and there has been a bunch of leaks. Now it's from the same leaks who the guy who's leaking them now is the Force Awakens, not the what's it, the Rise of Skywalker leaks. So he has a pretty good track record, but some people have been very upset with what they've heard so far, and I don't think it's too bad. It just seems to be very much like the last anime we talked about, where it is just going to be constant battles for the first half at least.
Is it not possible that rather than this being a thing that's going to happen, that these things are being leaked onto the internet to gauge a response
Hmm.
before a decision is made? Like they did that with the Star Wars hotel originally. Like,
Yeah, no, that could be true as well. Like, because there isn't really a script at the moment. They just seem to be shooting these battle scenes, but I don't know. It's like I kind of figured that if they were going to have Doomsday be a big event movie, that it was just going to be a big spectacle. I don't really expect a story until Battle World where they kind of piece it together. It's just going to be like we need to kill off a lot of these worlds and then pull a lot of the heroes into Battle World and then set up the movie and then kind of set up your new status quo. So I'm not too shocked by what I heard, and I would kind of believe it. But like, my question, I suppose, to you, Kevin, to you, Keen, if that's all Doomsday was, would you be like disappointed with that?
I I quite liked Phase 4 and 5 as we even though there were weaknesses to it. I I'll put it this way, if it ends up being like a reset with like cast resets and all that kind of stuff, I would just bail on the MCU because the reason I stopped reading comics was I was really into the New Avengers and the Young Avengers and all that. And then the original Civil War happened and all their plot lines were basically abruptly stopped without consultation to the writers in a lot of cases. And I know you like don't mind it because you're like more of a DC person, but like
Mhm.
once the specter of everything can get reset at any moment is put on the table, I think you've basically given up any dramatic tension at all.
Well,
Because why you
that's the
no,
criticism
hang on,
with
just hear me out. Just
stage.
hear me out. Like,
Yeah.
because like, let's say they reset it, and let's say there's like a new young Captain America, and there's a new this and a new that. Why should I get invested in something that can tangibly get wiped at any point from now on as something that exists as part of the MCU's lore? Like, why doesn't that bother you?
Well, isn't that the criticism of this multiverse thing? Full stop. Where it's like death doesn't really matter. Like Gamora has
That's
died like
true.
6 times. Loki has died even more, and it's just like they just keep coming back. So it is kind of. I hear what you're saying, and it is unfortunate that they've done this, but by opening the door to the multiverse, that's what happens. Like that's why DC did it in the first place, because they had all these multiverses among multiverses, and it just becomes this convoluted mess where you're gonna have to wipe it and start again. Um, Now obviously comics are different than movies. Like comic characters don't age, and contracts don't really matter in the same way as like a film star, like a flesh and blood person does. But I look, it makes sense. They box themselves in a corner here, and they kind of have to have a new start and reboot um progress. But it's more so like they have all these continuities that they have to square the circle going forward. Like X-Men, everybody likes the X-Men. Everybody wants to see them come back before they introduce a new crowd. I'm not too upset about it because it is kind of like our MCU was built out of scraps, not to use the pun. And now that Disney kind of owns all of it, barring Spider-Man, they can make something a bit more cohesive. So I'm okay with it. Now, here's the thing. If they did it every 10, 15, 20 years, yeah, that would be a bit annoying. But at the same time, you kind of have to. Like, the characters, like, if you don't, you end up with Hugh Jackman playing Wolverine literally until he's 90.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind the multiversal type stuff as long as like the characters are still the characters. Like Loki in the Loki show, even though like technically he died in what they called Avengers Infinity War, is still functionally Loki. It's I don't know. My theory is that they're going to do a what's it called, Force Awakens, and they're going to bring back Chris Evans and all of them who die as the mentors, so that like all the young Avengers and the new ones can basically seize the public's imagination and all that. Because if there is a big failing in the MCU 4 and 5, it's that I don't think that beyond the diehard Marvel people, a character has really grabbed people's imaginations. And even for those who have made an impression, they haven't been there consistently enough to hold people's attention. Like, I'm a big advocate of, like, Kate Bishop and, like, Yelena and, like, all these kind of characters. But you could watch all the stuff that's come out with them in the last 3 or 4 years in 4, 5 hours, even though there's been, like, probably, like, 100 hours of, like, MCU stuff in the last few years. So, I don't know. I just hope it isn't some sort of, like, magical reset or, like, something that resets the whole table, because what you could end up doing is losing the audience who have stuck with you through the kind of low ebb period, and then also not bring in a new audience as well. It's a pretty risky gamble for a supposedly safe bet.
Yeah, see, I don't think they'll be like, here's Tony Stark again. He's played by Robert Downey Jr. Here's Chris Evans. No, what I do think they are going to do is they are going to do a reset, but it's going to be with a bunch of recasts and different Avengers. Like, there are some cool stuff that they could do, but then again, we don't really know. We won't know until it's obviously out or until we start getting more trailers. But they still had to square this circle, and I thought, no, I'll be honest with you, I thought they would have done it sooner. I thought like that was the whole point of the multiverse saga, where you're crushing universes that don't exist anymore and bringing characters in. Like, for example, the end of Deadpool and Wolverine, that doesn't actually tie anything up because that universe still exists and they're not in the MCU. So I think what we have here is something that should have been done as part of Phase 4, Phase 5, and it just messily has to be done in this movie. But then afterwards, they obviously want the franchise to continue, so they probably will have someone who's a lot younger than Robert Downey Jr. playing Iron Man, and it probably won't even be that Iron Man. It could be like the Sinister Iron Man or Superior Iron Man or whatever.
Well, it's supposed to be Kang. It's supposed to be the young Iron Man in the Avengers, but they're probably not going to do that now.
Yeah, they probably won't do that now as well. But that's what I'm saying. Like, they have options. I don't think it will be a clean reset. And they're like, here, we're going to make 7 movies with Chris Evans. Is like, no, they're just going to give a proper continuity refresh with new characters, which they can build on for
it's
10 years.
It's just dawned on me that we kind of do have this played out on a micro scale with the Fox X-Men universe.
Yeah,
and here's the thing, like they have like a trial run, and ostensibly they could use that to learn, because obviously that was a train wreck. The Dark Phoenix was awful.
They need to stop trying to make Dark Phoenix. It's just it just never works.
At least get to space before you do.
Yes, it's a kiss of death every time they try.
But also, like that's like the Fox X-Men stuff. Like they did try to reboot its entire franchise and recast and go younger and try that. And it didn't work for a lot of reasons. Most every reason, in fact. It was bad in most every way. But like it kind of is the soft try for if they are going to try and like reboot using the same characters. They have the mistakes there literally on paper. They own them now.
Oh, more than that, the X-Men are going to be in this film.
Yeah, the old X-Men.
Yeah,
not the ones that they tried to redo. The old ones.
You see,
yeah, I don't know how much money they gave to Alan Cumming to come back after all these years, but it must have been a lot.
It's funny, Kev, that you bring it up, because like they had one of the best X-Men of the recast time period in Evan Peters, and they threw it away as a joke, and it's like, this shouldn't be a joke. You fumbled it completely. And that's my concern. It's like, if they don't understand, it's like, listen, you have your opportunity now to pass the torch, and if you mess it up, That's it. You don't get a do-over. And by bringing Chris Evans back and by bringing Robert Downey Jr. back and everyone else, it's like you only get this one play. Either it will be fantastic and everyone will be like, okay, we're back again. This kind of makes sense because you have to give something people to hold on to at the end of Battleworld. You can't just be like, and we're done, because that's what happened with Endgame. It was like this big, awesome, and Endgame does actually have an awful lot of problems, really, when you break it down. But when Infinity Wars and Endgame was done, you're like, okay, cool, now what? And then you don't go anywhere. And that's kind of what Battle World has to do, or Secret Invasion has to do. Not Secret Invasion, Secret War. That's what that has to do when it comes out. It has to not only be a satisfying end, but also, and reset the new status quo. But then it also has to have stories within it to make you want to go back and watch it again. Because you're not going to get like I will say, Kev, I love that analogy with the X-Men universe, but the difference here is you don't get a do-over with the MCU. Like, this really is it for them. It's either going to work or it's not, and that's wild. But I did hear there was a comment that came out that Feige didn't want the MCU to end up like Lucasfilm, which was a nice little jab because Star Wars is kind of a dead franchise. Like, even we were talking about the Darth Maul show that came out.
I got bingo. He said it.
Yeah,
Yay.
and they seem to be moving kind of like a lot of that is taken from George Lucas's own treatment. So we could see. I mean, they seem to be pulling back towards Lucas, which is funny, and we could, but there is no hope that will be good. With the MCU, there's still like this little bit where it's like if you stick the landing and it isn't terrible, the franchise might survive. But we could be living in a timeline where Star Wars and the MCU are completely just tapped out. So it'd be interesting
well,
to see.
Not just that, but you have a test run of this exact thing as well with Doctor Who, because everyone was excited when David Tennant was coming back.
That's Cian bingo. I got that too.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, God,
on your bingo card, the whole lot.
Now. But then, like 2 years later, when they bring like Billy Piper back as a surprise to be the Doctor, and it's like, well, didn't we just do this? I mean, I'm hoping she'll be like the Doctor in a permanent sense, but from an audience reaction perspective, you don't get to hit that hype button twice.
No, it has to go. Like, you can hit the hype button, but it has to actually like go somewhere. And unfortunately, with these franchises, even with Star Trek, and again, I'm not a Star Trek fan at all. Like, it's pure ignorance on my side. But like, there's only so many times you can jingle the keys at someone and be like, look, because it just doesn't work, And there's this kind of apathy with people where you can watch something like an incredible anime like Demon Slayer or something like that and be like, well, this has all the shiny keys as well, but it also has a pretty good story and I'd rather watch this. And this is why comics aren't really selling, because like the kids are reading anime because it's better, or reading manga because it's just better, right? So it is a thing that if I was in Hollywood right now, I'd be pretty scared, because it's just like, this could really just end bad across the board, and you could end up with these big franchises just disappearing. Like, look, Doctor Who's hanging on by a thread. I don't know what they're going to do. Star Wars is hanging on by even a thinner thread, and the MCU is like not far away from it. Like if Doomsday doesn't do it, that's kind of it. Like, people won't even stick around for a Secret War.
I mean, I don't think the MCU would go away. Like, someone like, to go a completely different topic, like Taylor Swift's last album didn't do like all that well critically, but like it got supported by the fans.
I liked it.
Think, oh really?
Yeah. Well, look, the thing about this isn't a Taylor Swift podcast, but the reason why people didn't like it is because she's happy. It's just like, or that the songs are just about her being happy, which is fine. But like, she went against her brand, which wasn't happy songs. It's like every band kind of does it as well, where it's like, they release that one album where you're like, oh, it's weird, and you're like, oh, they're in a different headspace or whatever. It's just, she just went a different direction. It's not like a complete betrayal of what she was. In the same way, like, if Taylor, for example, this is a good analogy. If Taylor Swift does a bunch of shows, people are still going to go to the shows because she's still going to play the hits, and she might sprinkle in some like bands like Metallica have been living off that, same with Iron Maiden for years, decades even. But with a franchise where you have to invest in it, sorry, I just want to finish the point. In a franchise where you have to invest in it and you have to keep going, you're not getting those hits, you're not getting those big moments, you're just getting a bad movie or a dull franchise or a waste of time. Like, for every cool bit in WandaVision, which we all loved, the end of it just makes it, I'd never want to watch it again, you know? And that's the difference. You're not getting a cool Avenger fight. You're not getting a cool cameo appearance that means something. You're just getting a bad product. And that's kind of the difference. It's movies and TV shows have to work better. And they're just, if they don't do it, people are just going to give up, you know? The attention spans that people have now is very, very short.
Well, you kind of stole my point there, which I was just going to say that, like, you know, if Taylor Swift releases an unpopular album, she can live happily off her fans for the rest of her life, but she might not lead culture like she used to. And I think the MCU and all these other things are in a similar position where they used to dictate culture and have imitators, and now that's falling out of fashion. So we may, I mean, who knows? Things take a long time to change and die out, but it might just be that the era of following a franchise or a brand might be on the way out, and a new type of cinema or TV, as we've kind of started to see pop up anyway, like odd things are suddenly becoming popular in cinema and on TV, and even the explosion of anime is kind of symptomatic of that to an extent.
Like we
But it
saw that
might just be that this go on.
Sorry, we saw that last year when the most popular movie as far as financials was a random movie out of China. You know, it's with Hollywood giving up its cachet as like the culture leader, because to be honest with you, it's made a lot of garbage in the past couple of years. Like we've talking about it with the writer's strike, and that's what made it funny. It was like, you're not writing anything good, you know? And even when you go back and watch some stuff now from the past 5 years, it's all very forgettable. Like Avatar 3, I just didn't go see it. I don't want to. And eventually that will happen now with stuff like Star Wars, with stuff like the MCU. Doctor Who, it's already happening. Star Wars happening as well. And, you know, that's why it's cool that Game of Thrones kind of turned that narrative completely and like, look, we know the ending was bad. Here's House of the Dragon, which is very good. And then here's another kind of cool show off it as well. They're aware. So there's no franchise that's too far gone. Maybe Doctor Who, but maybe not.
Well, Doctor Who kind of thrives on being niche anyway.
It does, yeah, it does. But it's, you know, there's no franchise that's too far gone, really. But there are substantial changes that do have to be made. Now, it's up to the people if they want to make those changes. Because remember, like, even, you know, just to finish the point, even to Nintendo have made catastrophic brand killers at least 4 times, and then they completely innovate and bring out a product that completely saves them. You know, like, this is the same brand that released the Virtual Boy Oi thing, you know, from a couple of years, the 3D Virtual Boy. They released the Wii U and the Switch 2. You know, different levels of success where they're coming off this huge culture changing device, and then it just bombs, and then they come back, you know, because they learn from it, and it's just like, okay, what was successful? And if any brand can do that, they're totally fine. But the problem, I think, if a brand digs in and doesn't change, that's it. And the days of it being carried by goodwill or money or anything like that, that's over. Again, I think you hit the nail on the head with that. Your fans will carry it, but eventually those fans will leave or age out.
Well, I don't think they'll ever fully leave, but it might just be more of a niche interest than like something that's reported about all over the place. Like,
well, as cultures shift and ebb and flow, one thing will remain the same, and that is that we will be back next week.
Rain or shine, it's probably
rain or shine. Hey, you know, you gotta tune in next week to see. We may have replaced Darragh with a younger, hotter actor, but only one way to find out.
Mary Elizabeth Winstead will be playing the role of Darragh next week.
You know what? I'd be okay with that. I'd be okay with that. Her or Evan Peters, I'd be totally fine with either one of those. Although I think Evan Peters is older than me, so.
That's good. Thank you all for listening. If you like what we do here, you can enjoy our entire back catalogue on YouTube or with the streaming service of your choice. They're all there. If you're on our YouTube channel, we would always appreciate subscribe, like, ring the bell, all that good stuff. If you'd like to find more of us, you can find all of our social media platforms on our website, nerdtoknowmedia.com. There, if you want to support us further, of course, you can find our Patreon. But until next week, I've been Kev.
I've been Darragh.
And I've been Cian.
and we will see you next week. Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to a Nerd to Know Media production.